one of the most controversial four-letter word on the internet that came from a very questionable origin and have many debatable definition and meaning, including the Western word CP. Yet, as I dive into this rabbit hole, the only thing that stabbed back was the abyss. And hello there, how's there? Ame Gakita there. So obviously today random chat we are gonna talk about the most controversial word itself, Loli. And I'm sure that there will be many people going around saying like there is a fake meaning to the word Loli, or there is basically some people say it's just straight out CP. Yeah, as much as I love to make the joke, there is a freaking food brand in Singapore called CP. You guys have to like understand that initially like I was not going to do this kind of topic initially. Like I spent like freaking months to read out a lot of article, a lot of questionable video or news or whatever to understand the word Loli, how the word changed over the year, the definition, where it origin, even to the point that I even come across the original source itself. And to be honest, right, it's really one of the moments where I really like debating with myself at the same time, do I really want to put up this video? But the reason why in the end I decided to do so is actually more so that Mutahar decided to call out the word Loli itself when he kind of like break tie with Knox. I mean, like, in a way, is he really a hypocrite at this point of time? It's kind of like up to depend on how people look at him. But if you guys really want to know more on his situation, it really can be put up as a whole new different random chat topic, because the number of people bashing on him on Twitter is really insane. But again, I would recommend you guys to check out Rev's video, link in the description below for more information if you guys are interested. But for me, I probably may or may not talk about his situation in near future or not. It's kind of like depends. But it really kind of like, the one thing a lot of people need to understand that the word Loli itself is very controversial, because it can be like, understanding the meaning of it can really make you wondering like, is it really mean CP? Even when I kind of like even find the original source itself, it can really like drawing the freaking thin line itself. So what is Loli? In English definition, most people would say that it's a young or young looking girl, which basically mean that any girl that is considered a minor is considered a Loli. That's one definition, that's one meaning. Another thing is, right, it's really kind of like the word itself, when they use the word young looking girl itself, right, it really kind of like beg the question, like it's really so vague, so as vague as the Declaration of Independence, where they say that all men are equal, or even free speech. Because at the end of the day, racism itself, is it against all men are equal, as well as the misinformation and people putting out hate speech, is that even considered a freedom of speech? So the thing is, right, as much as this kind of thing is kind of like questionable, I'm sure that many people will go and say that, hey, you should be not looking at English version. Well, I did look into the Japanese version, the origin, as well as even asking some of my Japanese friends, and I can assure you guys, many of them give me the same definition, that is just basically referring to soldier or young girls. But there is no really like indication like what does it mean, like young, where the word young looking girl is, or any girl that look young or you look short or pedo sized girl, does that mean they are Loli? It's really kind of like drawing the thin line of the word Loli itself, because Loli have kind of like evolved over the year with new definition to it. Yet many people just kind of like debate, is it really yes or no thing? It's really not like no. It's like the answer is so complex that even if you ask me like, is Loli referring to young girls? Yes and no. The thing is, right, it's really drawing a thin line that obviously if you ask any Japanese people, they will just say, oh, it's sojo. And the word sojo itself can also mean girls that is even in the early 20s. So that means that they are legit. So the only thing that people want to go around is that, is Loli a legit or considered CP? It really kind of depend on the actual age of the girl, which also became a controversial topic as well. Because anyone who say that a girl that looks short or look young, that is even if they are a legit adult, they will still call them a Loli. And it's really kind of like beg the question, like even if that's the definition, if a young girl that is 25 years old that look like a freaking 13 years old, is she a loli or not? Because the thing is, right, some people will just call her a loli, some people refer her as a legit loli, some will even go as saying like she had a loli body. But at the end of the day, it's really kind of like back to the question, what is even the actual definition of a loli? The thing is, right, it actually came from a very, very controversial word, and that is actually LOLITA. No, don't to confuse with the word the LOLITA fashion itself, which will come back later. But the thing is, right, the story itself came from the word LOLITA, which is a very controversial novel itself as well. And kind of like, if you guys want to know the English version, I'll put up the English version Wikipedia for you guys to go and check it out. But in a way, when I was like cross-reference both the Japanese and the English to see whether is it like the same one and the same along the line, yeah, it's really kind of like mean that the word LOLITA was actually very controversial, the word itself. So it was released in French, and yes, in France of all people, even though the one who wrote it was basically a Russian American along the line. So the thing is, right, the story is very controversial because it involved CP, where one of the main heroine involved was really a legit young minor. I can't really say the story fully, but in summarized form, it's basically about a person who married the younger mom, and he did very questionable thing to the mom, and wanting to do something very questionable to the child, and the story just basically end up that the girl live her own life and the guy just go to jail along the line. But the thing is, right, did the guy go to jail because of CP? No, the guy actually ended up going to jail because of a murder case he did. So in the end, it's really like he wasn't charged for CP itself. It was that it's a different case. So the thing is, right, the story itself is really kind of like controversial in a way back then. Even till now, is still considered as such one as one of them. But the question is that the word itself, the LOLITA, kind of like being used to refer like people who is into young girls in the Japanese term. So in a way, the word loli, right, do come from the word term LOLITA, and there is actually a term for it, which is LOLITA complex, or the word complexity. Now the thing is, right, LOLITA complex really came from a very questionable origin, which is the reason why I say at the start it's very questionable, because the thing is, right, it's really drawing the line of like how people going around like, is CP good or not? When the story itself is so questionable itself, that when people use a very questionable word, which is basically in old man into a young girls, right? Yeah, they use that phrase as LOLITA, and they would use the word complex. So that's the reason why instead of calling the word LOLITA complex, sorry, they decided to like how typical Japanese people love to do for their words, shorten it. So lolicon came from the word LOLITA complex, which actually came from the novel itself, LOLITA. Now, the issue with this word LOLITA itself, right, is that it's also a very questionable and very controversial because it also involved a fashion on it, which is basically a fashion that a lot of people know about, the fringy or the so-called Victorian style clothes. Now, anyone who want to know is that LOLITA now have a different meaning, which is basically the practice of adult women dressing in exclusive fringy doll, princess, maiden inspired clothing. And the reason why for that is that initially they want to go with the kawaii clothes. And yes, it is by the very same company that actually decided to do with its Sunrow, the one who created Hello Kitty. Now the issue is that the style initially they want to call it kawaii style, but as time passed by, they decided to use the word dolly cane or the word LOLITA, which is basically LOLITA itself. Now the thing is, right, it's really kind of like once the moment that people kind of like wanting to use it, why does it they use a very controversial word as the word? Is that they didn't really want to use it as a mean of saying like he has a very controversial style or it mean that he's a young girl. It's actually because Lolita, the word itself, also kind of like mean young girls. So for adult people or people who want to look young like a young girls, they obviously use the word Lolita so that they refer as themselves as young girls. And that's the reason why the fashion itself kind of like became one of the most controversial at that point of time before people started wearing it. And it became one of the most stable clothes fashion that I've seen in my life. The fashion itself, as a person who sells clothes for over 10 years, I know very well that it can be quite questionable for people, but if people use it as a name, you can't really say like, is it really a controversial style? It's just that if it means that the word itself is being phrased as the word called young girls, yeah, you can't really like saying like, is it mean that it's referring to Lolita is a CP itself? No, it's just that they use the word that Lolita is meant to refer to a young girl. So in a way, Lolita fashion itself, it just basically mean that anyone who want to dress out as young girl, it just basically they are being called Lolita. And in the same term, it came from, yes, the same origin, the book itself. So if anyone want to know, it came from the novel itself. The Lolita book is same. So the thing is, right, the word Lolita kind of like has kind of like diverse in a way, whether we all like it or not, to have different meaning. One being the word Lolita complex, and the other one being the Lolita fashion. And in a way, it's really kind of like beg the question like, what does Loli mean nowadays? Well, the thing is, again, like I mentioned, in the Japanese term, it means young girls. It can mean young looking girls. It can also mean that teenage girls. And in Japanese, that is the definition as what they think. But is that what it mean that, oh, it just basically means CP? Again, I mentioned, if you call a young girl who is over 20 years old and you say that, hey, that is loli, then I don't know what's the definition of loli anymore, because it kind of like beg the question like, is it because of a person age or is it because of a person height? Because considering that the number of anime over the period have been going around saying like a male character that is over 2 years old is already looking like an adult, or even like there is girls who is short that has 300 years old, over 70, like can be called your grandma, or even like over 2000 years old. Yet the thing is, right, some of them may act like a child. So does that mean that they are a child? It's really kind of bad, the question, right? So the thing is, right, even when the main point is like, even when there is like legit people who is underage, like 1 month years old or 10 months old, they look like adult, all of them look like adult, and yet all the short people look like loli along. Like, it really kind of bad the question, like, do you really want to say that anyone who is like watching anime is it really real one or fake one? I mean, like, it's really kind of like going with the idea that watching a TV drama is actually real. All the things that happen in the drama is real because it's not fiction, it's not real, or is it real along? Or even if the word is like based on a real life word, does that mean that it is real along the line? It's really kind of like beg the question, is it true or not? Even like the Japanese have the kind of like a funny term called yes loli no touch, basically mean that you can look at a loli, you can help to protect the loli, but you can't touch them because that is against the crime. And in Japan, obviously PDF file itself is a crime. Don't get it wrong, okay? Just because people like loli doesn't mean that there has to be a PDF file. Now the issue is that the word loli itself at the end of the day is really beg the question like, is it a crime within a country? It depends. It's one of the, like, even when I was like looking through some of the online article, even like one of the article by TrillMag itself, the 100 years old, 6 years old, let's talk about loli con, it really kind of like beg the question like, is loli con legit? Short answer, some will say no. Longer answer, yes and no. Now the thing is, right, it's really kind of like you have to sit down and think, what is the definition of loli? There's too many. Some say like young girls or young looking girls. And the thing is, right, even in the Japanese term, they never really like they never really refer to the words called Yujian, which basically mean kindergarten or nursery girls. So it's really like drawing the thin line, and the answer itself is very, very vague. That one wrong move can mean a whole new different story. So it's really kind of like make you really want to question, like, does Loli mean CP? If you are referring to like into girls that is minor, then I would say maybe yes. But can you deny the fact that if a girl who is short like under 150 cm and they're like 20-30 years old and they have the body shape of a young girl, do you still want to call them Loli? Or are you going to call them adult? Even though some people will call them Loli. So the thing is, right, it's really bad the question on what is Loli anymore, because you can't really deny that the word Loli that came from a very questionable origin had changed over the year with many definition and meaning to it, that you can't really say that the word LOLITA is a bad word anymore, because there is a whole new genre of clothes behind it. So the thing is, right, when you kind of like sit down and think about it, am I going to say like is CP or Loli along the line the one and the same? It's really one of the moments where you have to ask like the Western people and the Japanese people. Even when I ask some of my Japanese people, they just say the same thing. They don't understand the full meaning of CP, the word CP or the word Loli. They just know that it just means young girls. Even some people will say that if a girl that looks short, look like a young little girl, and they are over 20 years old, they will still use the word Loli on them. So at the end of the day, Loli really had changed over the year. Some will still use the word, oh, if you are into Loli, mean you are a PDF file, but yet, is it really? Meaning had changed, and the thing is, right, the word Loli and even the CP itself have always been kind of like watered and overused over the years, that it really begs the question, like, does it even mean anything? And personally, in my own opinion, is that we should be addressing the actual PDF people, those predator, even as much as the groomer themselves. Like if they are actual groomer and they are actual predator, we should be calling those people out, not those people watching anime for God's sake. The thing is, right, just because people watching anime, it's really like the same thing as people are just watching a TV drama, just only on 2D form or 3D form, depending on how you look at it. It's just that if you call, like, if you watch a freaking drama or a movie that has central stuff in it and you call that controversy and people say, oh, there's nothing wrong because it's real life. Yeah. What does that differentiate from anime itself? What does that differentiate from manga and like novel? So the thing is, right, it's really kind of like drawing the thin line where do you want to say like watching anime, is it real? Or you just enjoying a character that is not real? At the end of the day, it's really just everyone have their own definition, and it's really hard for me to justify that, hey, is it CP or is it a whole new term on its own? There's really kind of like no way to go about two ways when it's really like the meaning is so broad, it's so wide, that even I myself, when I was like looking at it, you have to understand why I have to give this kind of answer, because having the abyss step back, I really lost many of my 9 billion life over this stupid thing. Now, am I gonna just go around and say that, hey, just because there is Loli or LOLITA in the anime or whatever, so we call them out? I think it's just that if there is like questionable central stuff over it, then we should really call those people out. Or even actual groomer or actual predator in real life. Like, there's so many people out there that should be called out, and yet people call out anime. It's like, what the heck? So it's really questionable. There's no go. There's really like one middle line where it can go either way, and it's really one of the moments where people always like debating over left, over right, and there's really like no point over it in the first place. It just, at the end of the day, it just depends on how you want to go about it. But having like everyone going around about it, like what is the actual meaning of the and definition of Loli itself, well, I can definitely tell you guys that at this point of time, it just can mean two ways. Just shout Loli, it can mean girls that is basically that look young, that even if they're over 20 years old, or even the younger itself. or minor to be exact. But at the end of the day, it's just my speculative thought. It's just a random chat. I'm sure that this will have a lot of people thinking like whether they want to agree with me or not. It's really up to you guys. For me, it's really one of the reasons why I was like, you have to understand that after hearing all these things, it should be like so obvious that what I'm been debating even with myself over months about should I release this video. This topic is really one of the most controversial online that I don't think that's an actual answer for it until when someone who decided to step up, because the origin itself is also very controversial. So at the end of the day, whether you have your own view, your own day, what is your definition of loli? Do you think that loli is CP, or does it mean a whole new different meaning? Write in the comment section, we can discuss it further. If not, if you do like this video, don't forget to press the like button and subscribe for more random chat where sometimes I talk about stuff that sometimes makes sense, doesn't make sense, or totally random at a time. But the one thing I hope that is not random for you guys is have a nice day online. Bye.